Welcome, everybody, to the last book club call of the decade. And for 2019, you can probably hear I'm a little under the weather, but we're going to be relentlessly going through, following through on this call, ta-dun-dun, and we are going to be talking about Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable with Tim S. Grover. And I listened to the audiobook versus reading the book. I always find it interesting when the authors don't use their own voices. I thought the guy's voice was very, in tune with the message that he was speaking. Did anybody else listen to the audiobook instead of reading the book?
I listened to the first part of it because it was on YouTube, and if you listen to Tim Grover, like his actual interviews, and you listen to the guy that recorded the voice, it's very similar. So yeah, you get the tone very easily.
Yeah, I listened to this morning. Listened to the Art of Charm podcast interview with Tim Grover, half of it in preparing for this call, and I could tell the difference. The audiobook guy's voice was just so smooth and so determined, and you could tell that guy, whether he was a cleaner or not, he embodied the cleaner just in his voice. I thought it was just very interesting. So the book, basically, for those of you guys that have not read the book, Tim is, he says he's not a trainer, right? But he works with the majority NBA players, like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and Dwayne Wade are some of his clients. And he helps them mostly with mindset, but also, and he gives them, I guess he was an NBA, or he was a college basketball player, wanted to go in the NBA, but got hurt, but still wanted to work with basketball players, and he created this business where, Dwayne Wade, the night before, the Heat is in the finals, flies him out, and just for like a 10-minute conversation, right? So very, very, very interesting. I thought that any of you that are fans of the NBA, bless you, would be very interested in listening to this guy talk about these guys and these players. I've actually used, in the last 2 days, on 2 different coaching calls, I've used something I heard in the book where he said that Michael Jordan, I think the quote in the book is, there's no off season when you're serious about being a winner. And he talked about Michael Jordan during the summer, what his protocol was he would get up, have breakfast, go work out, and then for 2 hours or whatever, and then he would go play golf, and then he would have lunch, I think, and then he would work out again, and then he'd go play golf again, and then he would have dinner, and then he would go work out again. So he incorporated fun things during the off season, but he never let down, and he never didn't do what he thought he needed to do to excel at his job. And in the whole book, he talks about 3 types of people. He talks about cleaners, closers, and coolers. And the way he describes, he says the cooler is good, the closer is great, but the cleaner is unstoppable. And before we started the recording, Greg and I were talking about were we cleaners or closers? And I think we both thought we were more towards a cleaner than a closer, but we weren't a cleaner all the way, because cleaners, basically, the way he and I read it, are just steel, right? No touchy-feely, and that's definitely not me. So, Greg, you were going to start saying something, and I cut you off. I said, save it for the recording.
Well, because, he talks about in the book, like, the difference between these cleaners and closers and coolers. And
and I can't remember what I was going to say, but when we were talking earlier, but what I found was interesting is that he talked about, and I kind of related it to baseball a little bit, where you've got the closer, the closer kind of comes in the ninth inning and shuts everything down, but he only can operate if he's kind of in his own lane. Like if he gets any type of adversity at all, the closer will crumble, and like he can't handle any that type of variables getting in his way. Whereas the cleaner is already prepared. He's prepared for anything, and if something doesn't go his way, he has a way to strategize and get around it and overcome the hurdle and to keep going. So,
right.
It's a very interesting mindset book. Which it's interesting that we've ended the top. What I found interesting about all of the, and I found this book to be kind of a very good ending to the club this year, because it touched on every little detail. Like all of these other books, you can kind of see being represented in Relentless. Like he talks about different places, like when we talk about obstacle is the way, and he gets, there's different elements of every book. So, I mean, this was kind of I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but it really did kind of summarize everything that we've talked about throughout the entire year.
Well, of course, I'm going to take all of the credit for that, which is not a cleaner, that's a closer. But and say, yes, I planned this out. But of course, I'm teasing and I had no idea. But don't you think that I find that in all of the books we read, many, many books that we read, there's overlapping themes and parallels, right? So I agree with you, though. As I was listening to it, I said, oh, that was like Obstacle is the Way, or that was like whatever, all the other books. So they do tend to start blending together. I mean, it's not like any of this is rocket science. We all know, like he says in the book, everyone wants to go on a diet. They buy diet books. They hire personal trainers. And basically, we all know, how do we lose weight? We stop putting crap in our mouth and we work out more. It's just two easy things, but, there's a whole industry on people who spend millions and gazillions of dollars trying to get fit, lose weight, and exercise more. But everyone wants the quick fix or the secret on how to, like people go, how do I lose space? You canvas and cold call and prospect. Well, what are the other secrets? There are no other secrets. So, but it's good though when you're reading a book or listening to a book and you can find some gems. Like one of my most favorite quote in the book is when he said, people who don't pursue their own dreams probably won't encourage you to pursue yours. And I thought that was phenomenal, because we all have heard multiple times, surround yourself, the 5 people you surround yourself with are the most important, right? Because you are a blend of those people, and they will encourage you. You'll rub off of each other, and it's important. I'm a big goal setter, and I have, a lot of friends, and some aren't into setting goals. And it's interesting that if there are people in your life that are not setting goals or going after their dreams, how are they going to support you in chasing yours? So I just that was kind of a aha quote when he said that, and he was talking about what the PhDs, right? Something about people who are holding the NBA stars' penises, but he used the word dicks, right? So PhDs, people who are holding their dicks. So, and the entourage, and that people they're just going to tell those celebrities what they want to hear, versus him being a cleaner. He's going to tell them, this is what you need to do. You already know you need to do it, and I'm here to hold you accountable to do it. So what do you think about that? Did anyone else on the call want to speak up? And what do you think about if your friends or the people around you aren't going after dreams, how can they support you in going after yours? Any thoughts? He also talks about, he says, people who preach inner drive are dreamers with a lot of ideas and a lot of talk, but zero production. So I'm not sure if I really agree with that, because I preach inner drive too, but I think that I get a lot done as well. But I do think that it's important to have inner drive, like a hunger in the belly. If you don't have that, you don't have that competitive desire. Oh, the other thing that I liked is when he, near the end of the book, he had one of his players said that the guy said, "I want to get even," and Tim said, "What do you mean you want to get even? You want to get even? You want to be at the same playing field or same level as they are? Don't you want to get ahead of them?" So I thought that was great. And he talked about, that's when he went off on a tangent and started talking about participation trophies, which we've all spoken about before. So other thoughts? Who else is on the call? Speak up, everyone. I know we've got a bunch of people on the call. You guys are quiet today. You're probably working on your Christmas lists.
Hi, Beth. Hey, everybody. Sam Exine here, Equity Development
Hi.
Group, FSU Class of 17.
Woohoo!
Man, so Beth, first just want to say so grateful for you organizing this call. I've seen it, you put it together a few times, but haven't had the fortune or the timing to be able to jump on. But when I saw the book today, it was Relentless. I had to move some things in the calendar and make sure I got here because this is probably one of my all-time favorites. Not a book that I've read recently, but something I definitely go back and reference all the time. Not something that actually primarily I originally thought would add as much value in business as it would in athletics. But I've, come to see how applicable it is to, our business as well.
When did you read the book?
When did I read the book? I'm not sure. Probably 2 or 3 years ago was the first time I listened to it on Audible. I actually joined. Somehow I entered my email address, and he got me on his drip campaign and purchased a couple of things through him. Like he has a poster about his Relentless 13 rules, which I'll share with you guys in a second. And then he also had a coaching call type of program thing that I was actively listening and participating in. I think it was $100 a month, or no, not even. Cool. It was $50 a month you pay for the year. But then he canceled it and turned it into a $1,000 coaching one-on-one session once he gave people a little taste. So, wow. But anyway, so the Relentless 13, I'll share real quick, and then I'll tell some of my favorite quotes, I guess, out of the book. The Relentless 13 is his 13 rules, and he's got them all labeled number 1. If it's 1 through 13, it doesn't matter. So when you're relentless, ... number 1, you go harder when everyone else has had enough. You go into the zone and control the uncontrollable. You know exactly who you are. You have a dark side that refuses to be taught to be good. You're not intimidated by pressure. You thrive on it. When everyone hits the in case of emergency button, they're all looking for you. You don't compete with anyone. You find your opponent's weakness and attack. You make decisions, not suggestions. You don't have to love the work, but you crave the end result. You'd rather be feared than liked. You trust very few people, and they better not let you down. You don't recognize failure. You know that there's more than one way to get what you want. And finally, you don't celebrate your achievements. You always want more. So that's his Relentless 13. I can share that with you guys after. You could spread it out to who's ever here. A couple of those notes, just to go over real quick. The very last one, you don't celebrate your achievements. You always want more. I remember in the book he talked about Michael. I think it was Michael. It may have been Kobe, actually. But anyways, so they're winning their 3rd or 4th title. NBA World Championship. And instead of holding up the number of rings that they currently have, like say he had 2, he just won 3. Instead of holding up 3 fingers, he's holding up 4. So like even though he just won the championship and gave the achievement, he's already like everybody else is celebrating, oh my God, and he's already looking towards the next goal. So that's something that really stands out. Another one is you refuse to have you have a dark side that refuses to be taught to be good. You know, a large part of the book, he talks about, you know, the dark side and kind of embracing almost like an alternate personality. And I thought that was pretty interesting concept because it's not something I really heard discussed a bunch of places.
Right.
Going back.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So last one, I guess just real quick, one of my favorite quotes from the book is, I'm not telling you to love it, and this is one of the rules as well. I'm telling you to crave the result so intensely that the work is irrelevant.
How does that work? How does that translate to what you do on a daily basis, the craving of the work? Like what is it that, because, you know, I think that that is so true for all of us. There's things that we do, you know, like the last thing I like to do is go through a 8-page letter of intent with a national retailer.
Sure.
I
or
hate
build
it,
an
but
Excel
you gotta,
model.
right. You know, but we got to do it, right? We have to craving the results, understanding that it's the process. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the process. Got to love the process because a lot of times when you get the results, you look back and go, and you know, it's great, but you are looking for the next win, and you have to really learn to enjoy the process because the wins are short. You can't just stand and rest on your laurels during the wins, right?
No,
so
absolutely.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like the moment that you kind of take your foot off the gas and start looking around about, you know, how nice your surroundings are and how you're finally here and you made it is the moment that, you know, somebody's going to zoom by you because, you know, they didn't take their foot off the gas. They got blinders on and they're continue to push. But in terms of like what you mentioned about valuing the process over the product, you know, like I said, I didn't originally read this book with a business intent. You know, I probably read it when I was still in college. My main focus at the time was like athletics, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that like going through like a practice and a training session is like something that I really enjoyed. So it's kind of like didn't necessarily apply as much there. But translating it, you know, a few years later, working full-time in real estate, basically, you know, I've kind of, when I started, my North Star was closing, say, 10 deals in 5 years, 10 development projects for national retailers, build-to-suits or fee developments. And, you know, I kind of got lost in the bigness of that goal and, you know, wasn't necessarily focusing on the work. Is more focusing on, if I just think about this goal all the time, think about this goal, you know, it'll eventually happen. But when I started to shift my mindset of, okay, I need to every single day have 3 phone calls with real estate managers for territories. 3 conversations with real estate managers that cover territory within my geographic region. And I started focusing more on doing the work and the associated processes that go into closing those deals. You know, I wasn't, even if the calls didn't go well, the fact that I was able to, you know, put it on a list and then cross it out, you know, slowly over time built confidence in a way that, you know, now I do love it because I can see the product attached to the process, right? Whereas before I was just looking at so hopefully that made sense somewhat.
Oh, and absolutely. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of self-improvement gurus out there like visualization, affirmation, set your goals, put it out in the universe, The Secret and all that stuff. And I believe in all of that, but I believe that you have to have a plan, an action plan to support the goals. Like you said, you've got to do the 3 calls every day, or you need to do the 10 Facebook prospects, or you need to canvas 30 or 100 people a week, or whatever it is, because you've got to do the work to reach the goals. Just saying that you want to reach the goals, you're never going to get there, right? So I think that was, that's very important, and he talks about that. And he also talks about, he says, here's a quote, no trainer or coach or expert can make you good or great or unstoppable if you're not going to do the work. If you're waiting for someone to make it happen for you, it's on you. And that's why I'm telling you all of this, not because I want you not because I want you to know what I do for my guys, but I want you to know what you have to do for yourself. So, it's just like if you're in the gym and the trainer says, you need to go do 50 push-ups, you have to do it yourself, or the 100, sit-ups or whatever. We have to do the work, which always goes back to, in my world, prospecting. Prospecting.
Beth, you just made your own point there, right? The trainer doesn't tell you to go to the corner and do push-ups. They tell you to do 50 of them.
Right. So they're specific.
It has to be very specific, exactly.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Beth. How goes it?
Peachy keen today. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm being relentless on this call. The other thing that he talks about is, I just lost it. Hold on here. Being relentless means what I wanted to talk about when they talked about the dark side. So, yeah, I didn't really like that. Like, I don't want to have a dark side and not care, if people like me or don't like me. I'm more, like what Greg said, I'm more touchy-feely when it comes to that. But what it did remind me of the dark side is the Cardone book, which actually Aaron gave me, Be Obsessed, Don't Be Average. I think I'm sure that's not the name of the title, but being obsessed.
Be obsessed
what?
Or be average. Be obsessed or be
obsessed.
average.
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
So, when people are obsessed, people criticize that. And I think that when people like a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant, when they're obsessed or when they're focused on their dark side, people criticize that when they're in the zone. One of the stories in the book was, I guess, Kobe takes shots at one end of the court, and he's in his zone prepping for the game, and no one goes over to that basket because they know he's in the zone. And I'm sure that in the early years or whenever that was starting to happen, maybe he got criticized by that. But it's important to know. I was on a call yesterday with one of my coaching clients, and we did the exercise of torture, which I recommend everyone do at least once a year, if not twice a year, where you put in a timeline every 15 minutes what you do for a week, and then send it to, give it to your boss or give it to a peer, or, send it to someone that can review it. And in multiple times during the day, he wrote, got distracted talking to, this guy in the office, got distracted talking to the group in the bullpen, yada, yada, yada. So, and I said, this is great that you, were honest enough to write that down and learned that when we calculated it, 5 days, if you calculated how much time you get distracted and are in the zone, it adds up. And understanding that so that you can then go back and make changes and say, okay, if I have a goal to whatever it is, buy a property, 3 properties in the next year, and these are the things I need to do to do that, then, what I recommended to this guy is take 90 minutes, and whether it's in a closed office in his office where he had an opportunity to be able to do that, get out of the bullpen and go in like a conference room, or even go to a library in town, but to focus on those 3 phone calls or for 90 minutes, whatever he needed to do. And then that way, when he went back to the office or when he left that private office and he went back to the bullpen, if he got distracted, it wouldn't ruin his day because he got that 90 minutes of focused in the zone work done first. So I think it's important that we all need to be able to be in the zone. You know, Aaron, because if we're not in the zone, we're not going to get our stuff done. Aaron, what is your trick about getting in the zone and getting your stuff done that you have to get done and not get distracted?
Well, I don't know if that's a loaded question coming from you or not, because I learned the tip from you when I was like 23. But I write down.
Was that last year?
It's very funny. I'm getting old now. I'm 31. I write down the 5 things that I have to do every day at the beginning of the day that are non-negotiable, and I can't leave work until they're done. Like, period.
So why do you do them in the morning versus the night before?
Because I can actually think in the morning. I'm more of a morning person.
Okay.
The right thing to do is probably do them the night before, and sometimes I'll be like sitting in bed and or in the shower or something thinking, and like something will pop in like, oh, I got to get that done, and I'll email myself on my phone. And if it's in my inbox, I know it'll get written down. So it'll like just be in the subject line, like whatever, markup LOI or make offer on this property or whatever, and that'll get added to the top 5 things.
So I like to do it the night before because there's this, granola thought that when you sleep on things, you can come up with some creative ideas. I also like to do it the night before so that after I drop Mario off at the bus, I can maybe, if 2 of the 3 things or 3 of the 5 things are making phone calls, I can do that before I even get to the office, right? And I think it's also important to make sure that we're doing the important things, not the urgent things. Like my 3 things today, I didn't have the book club call on there because I knew that was going to happen, and that would have been a cop-out. So make sure that – so thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you're still doing that. I do that every day. That's the way I keep myself organized. And on Friday night at 5 o'clock, I can look back and pretty much have gotten 15 very important things done and move the ball. Did someone want to jump in and say something? Greg, how do you stay in the zone?
I have to get out of just whatever is comfortable. So I used to think like, if I would do it the night before at home, whatever it would be, and prepare the next day, I used to think that, I can do that. But as my kids get older and the distractions become louder and just larger, home, unless I'm home alone, working at home is not ideal, especially, and even at night. Right. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like at 6 o'clock, I'm going to have to shut it down until like 10:30 until people go to bed, because that's when I can focus again. Otherwise, there's just too much going on, and that's okay. So I've recognized that I think a lot of it, I either have to go to a library, or I'm in the office early, or it's just you've got to I'm just organizing my calendar a little bit differently because we've just got so much going on with 3 kids over the age of 12, all going different places. So you just I have to stay in that zone. But the way I do it is I organize my calendar. I create those time blocks that really keep me focused on what I need to accomplish every given day, specifically throughout the day, so that I know I'm able to move the ball forward for any potential deal that I'm working on.
Awesome. What was your favorite book of the year, of our whole year? Do you have a favorite?
Atomic Habits. That was my favorite. I got the most. It was probably the most practical, but the tactical. I learned the most from it, and I was able to apply the most information from it. it really kind of allowed me to organize my time and recreate and make these habits and consistently improve on them, and the habit stack, and to really making these small changes to your life, how big of an impact they can be. It was so much so that I bought the book for 3 of my bosses and gave it to them as Christmas gifts because I thought it was that good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was my favorite throughout the year. Man, there were great nuggets throughout the year. You can with Stu Dog and Obstacle is the Way, and even the last 3 that we've had just throughout the course of the year, I think have been strong. So it's been a good collection of resources. And that's not to say that I didn't like your first book, Beth, or did I get nothing out of it? I did. But I thought James Clear and Atomic Habits, I think, was just the strongest.
I love that book. I love that book. And you've reviewed the list for next year. So except for my book, which we're doing next month, what any standouts that you're looking forward to reading next year with the new list?
The Miracle Morning. And I have it. I just haven't read it. So I'm actually looking forward to it. And I've looked at the list, and those are the and I've heard good things about Shonda Rhimes, and so I'm glad we have a woman author finally, aside from you.
Yeah.
That interesting perspective.
Yeah, trying to shake things up a little bit.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Aaron, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am on the call. Sorry, I had to unmute.
That's okay. Looking back from the year, what book did you like the best? Not including mine.
Not including yours. I got my list up on my phone. Call Me Ted by Ted Turner was awesome. The Power of Failure by Fran Tarkenton I thought was really good, and I think it would be potentially a good option for this call. Fran Tarkenton was a quarterback in the NFL way back in the day. He played for the Vikings. Sorry, I'm getting over a cough myself. And just talks about how obsessed he is with learning from failure. And actually, back in those days, NFL players weren't really making a lot of money, i.e., him and guys like Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach was actually extremely successful in real estate and sold his company to JLL for $600 million. Fran Tarkenton is a wildly successful entrepreneur who cut his teeth in the offseason and basically leveraged his name and brand by getting his foot in the door and just working like a regular career. So his book I thought was really inspiring, would be good for this. And I thought that Yes is the Answer, What is the Question? A book by Cameron Mitchell, who is a restaurateur out of Columbus, Ohio, who's developed a ton of really successful restaurant brands. So those people on the call that are tenant rep focused or lease really cool lifestyle projects or whatever may be familiar with him as a tenant, but the title of the book tells you everything you need to know about it, where it's like kind of figure it out first and providing great service. So I would say those are the 3 or 4 that I really enjoyed the most. And of course, I forgot the Everything Store, which is the story about Bezos putting together Amazon. But that book was crazy and probably a little too long for purposes of the call each month.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron. This book also talks a lot, Relentless talks a lot about instinct. And in the last week, I've been on like 4 different podcasts. It's like the month of the podcasts. And and they all ask you, what is the one piece of advice? And what I always say is in acquisitions, early on, I did not follow my instincts. I had instincts about deals that I should buy, but I talked to a bunch of people and they would discourage me. People that maybe that were more risk averse than I was. And out of the, let's say, 8 opportunities that I passed on because I let people talk me out of them, 6 went on to become phenomenal developments. And so I'm a big, big, big believer in following your instinct. And I would highly recommend the 31-year-olds like Aaron on the phone, younger, older people, to follow your instincts, because I really messed up with that. I thought there were smarter, richer, and more experienced people that I could get advice from, even though I knew the market data better than them. And, the market data usually wins. So I liked that you
I'm
talked
so glad
a lot.
you said that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but the quote in the book is, "The greats never stop learning. Instinct and talent without technique just makes you reckless, like a teenager driving a powerful high-performance vehicle. Instinct is raw clay that can be shaped into a masterpiece if you develop skills that match your talent. That can only come from learning everything there is to know about what you do." So I'm not saying if your instinct says to buy this piece of real estate and you've done no homework and you haven't, expanded on your skill set to learn, but if you have done that and your instinct matches what you're seeing, go with your instinct. So, Aaron, why are you glad I said that?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because the best acquisition I think I'm going to end up making thus far is one that you actually told me that you weren't comfortable investing in.
Right.
And I really struggled. I really struggled with that. But I actually just signed an LOI this morning to sell it. So
fabulous.
At a pretty good spread, hopefully. And look, it's not done. We still have to get through a PSA. They still have to close, but I feel pretty good about it. So that wasn't easy for me. Like, I really struggled with that because I got a lot of people excited about it to invest in the deal, inclusive of myself. And having you pass on that was good for me because it made me look at it at another angle and really cross my T's and dot my I's in my pro forma and make sure that I really felt good about everything that I was doing and saying. But like, I still struggled with that idea that, oh, well, if she's been doing this a long time, she knows what she's doing. Like, why is she not into it? And I'm glad that you said that on this call, because sometimes you just have to go with your gut and your instinct. And the deal felt right to me, and had the equity committed otherwise later, like a week or so or 2 weeks later. And hopefully, I think it's going to end up being a pretty good success story. So we'll see how it pans out.
I'm so glad, and I'm glad that you shared that, because I have a friend who says with investing, people are they're like going on elevators, and some people get off on the elevator at different floors, and maybe at 59, I'm going to get off the elevator. You're going to keep going on the elevator, right? So maybe there was something about it, I don't remember, that I didn't like that you liked, but I'm glad that you went with your instinct again. And like you said, just making sure you cross your T's and dot your I's to back up the instinct, right, and not be reckless. And it sounds like you did that, and it's going to be a good deal. So I'm glad you didn't listen to me. Because I look back at, in real estate, you can't look back at deals you lost, because you would just drive yourself crazy. But every once in a while, I can feel sorry for myself because I didn't follow through in deals I knew would be great. And since I came up with that edict that I'm going to go forward no matter what, there have been a couple of deals where I didn't close on because they didn't end up being what I thought. But at least I knew I gave it my 100% effort and followed through and was relentless in making sure to try to get it done. And then if it didn't get done, it wasn't because I took someone's advice or cautionary, we don't think that's going to be good, and took someone else's opinion and made it my own. It was some other reason. So thanks for sharing that. Anybody else have anything to say about this book?
One topic we haven't touched upon is kind of Tim's origin story, where, his parents were, he had kind of not a broken family, but a displaced family. His mom came, he came from India, moved to London. Mom had to go to the U.S. to become a nurse, leaving dad and two brothers in London, and then they had to come over a couple of years later when they saved enough money to make the time over. But they get to the airport, they get in the cab, and then dad gets the boys out with all their luggage, kind of halfway between the airport and their destination, and goes to said, we're on this we're going to go on a fantastic adventure into the city. When come to find out that he had to get out of the cab because dad didn't have any money to pay the full fare. He had just enough money in his pocket to get to where they were, and then had to walk the rest of the way. And then he talks about, going to work with his dad, who worked in the basement of a hospital, dismembering cadavers at the age of 6. And so I think what I got out most out of it is there's always this event, there's always going to be something that seems to be a trigger, in your life that's going to set you on a path. And obviously this was his event for his life. My event was being unemployed for the better part of, a year and a half, between 2008 and 2010. And there's these origin stories that really just kind of carve your path, and you think and they make you uncomfortable, and you grow so much out of a very short period of time, or this one event that will just teach you and put you on the right path for pretty much for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you for sharing that. And and look, for us that are parents, Aaron's daughter Sophie is teeny tiny, but Greg, you've got 3 over 12. Are you creating those experiences for your kids?
I think we have. My wife and I, it's hard for me to relate to what he went through, but we had to leave the comforts of our home in Ohio. We were, I had worked off and on a couple different jobs, one 2 hours away from home that I had to drive to every day. Another was 60 miles away from home, through snow and everything else. And, it just wasn't enough. And, we had to leave comforts of home, move south to Alabama. So we are a Yankee in a Dixie state, where you're not welcome. But it put us on a path to where we are today. We rode into town in Alabama with $1,000 to our name, and
wow.
that was it. That's all we had. We had paid the first month's rent of our house that we rented, and that's kind of put us on a path of where we are today. And it's been. They just open your eyes. They really enlighten you, and they make you grow. And hindsight being 20/20, there's a lot of things I would have done differently. But I think I'm much stronger and better for it, because of it. And I miss home. I miss Ohio, and I'm always there. But there'll always be a place in the heart. But I think that was, for me to leave and be forced out, really was the best thing that could have happened for me and our family.
Well, thank you for being so honest and sharing and so transparent. I think what you said at the beginning is when we do things that are uncomfortable for us, that is so powerful, and it absolutely 100% helps us grow as people, right? And I'm sure your kids really appreciate the sacrifices you had to make. And he talks about that in this book, right? He does say cleaners are the ones that make the sacrifices. And clearly, Greg, you had to make some significant sacrifices for your family. So bravo to you on that.
Yeah, there's my cleaner moment, my one and only.
And Aaron, you've had to do some uncomfortable things going out on your own, scary shit, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
I loved your little video yesterday about your holiday party in your office.
It was lit, Beth.
The party of one.
Party of one eating nasty salt and vinegar flavored popcorn. I don't know what I thought about. I don't know how I decided that was a good idea to try it. But yeah, drinking water and playing YouTube music. It was good. Enjoyed it.
How many people told you shouldn't go out on your own and do your own thing?
I didn't talk to
more than 10.
I didn't talk to 10 people about it that I knew were going to say that. I mean,
so you
I'm
contained your environment. You only spoke to people who were out there trying to go after their own dreams so they would encourage yours.
Correct. Yeah. And the people, yeah, that's very well put. And there was people, I have very close family members who aren't entrepreneurs who were beyond nervous and were telling me to take another job opportunity that was in front of me. And I don't know. The way I looked at it was, I've told you this before, the risks associated with doing it didn't outweigh how I would feel about myself if I didn't do it, if that makes sense.
Right. You got to try it. And you're only 31, right?
Right.
But you're successful. How many properties have you purchased so far?
4 with another one imminent to happen. So hopefully it'll be 5 very soon.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
All right. Yeah, isn't that awesome? Okay, so, wow, end of a decade, everybody. End of 2019, end of a decade. I've written 2 books in this 2019. I guess I wrote the other one in 2018. But anyway, that's the next book. And our dear friend Greg is going to be interviewing me. I think the date is January 17th, but we will be sending out notices. So if you haven't already gotten the book, The Retail Leasing Playbook, it came out about 3 weeks ago. 69 chapters, A to Z, how to be a Rockstar leasing agent. And Greg Parsons will be conducting the book club with the author, me. So I hope you guys can be on that call, get the book and read it, or just listen to us as we discuss it. And I thank all of you for all of your support through the year and look forward to 2020. We have all of the books listed. That doesn't mean that I can't do some substitution. So, Aaron, I'll definitely take a look at some of these books you mentioned today and see if we can fit them in somehow. But I wish all of you Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and have some great time with your family. And I really love that you guys are part of the book club. And have a great rest of the year and go close some deals.